Hi, I'm Steve. I have Studio 2 in the laundry rooms, predominantly for electronic music, either my own or I do a lot of mix work and production for other people.
Are you primarily an engineer, a producer, or a musician?
Definitely not a musician. God, anyone who's listened to my music will tell you that. Primarily a producer, I guess.
Because I'm trying to think of all the different sort of monikers you've had since I've known you. Shake Aletti is the one that most people know you by.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed. I thought it was been kind of, how do you describe it? Kind of retro 80s dance music, dance vibe.
Funk type palaver, yeah.
And your thing's always been really sort of, you're kind of an analogue.
Yeah, well, I basically I got into music in general because I had friends who were older than me who had all this kit, and I used to go and mess around with all their kit, and that's how I got into it. I never really cared about making music, and I wasn't bothered about computers. It was just about having things to touch and turn and hear what it did, and that's what excited me, and it's still what excites me now. So I try to steer clear of using the computer as much as I can.
Because you've always had, I mean, as we walk around the studio, we see various incarnations of your studio littered about. I think you've got at least two or three desks leaning up against
lying
walls,
around. I go through them. Yeah, I've had so many different consoles, but I have like a penchant for old gear, and it's so old that it kind of fails, and then I can't be bothered to get it fixed. So I have to get another board instead, because I'm that lazy, and I can't be bothered to get my soldering iron out. So I just buy a new one. But this one I've borrowed off Toddler T. This is his old one, and I had an old Soundcraft. I've had about like 15 different desks of different sizes.
You had a Soundtracks when we first.
I had a Soundtracks when I first moved here. It was a Megas, like a big 40 channel thing, but it was rubbish. So I sold it to someone. Sorry if you're who bought it. It was fantastic, but I sold that and I replaced it with like another big Soundcraft, and then I moved to a smaller desk and then a bigger desk.
So you had quite a classy desk for a while, but it was too small, and it didn't.
The Trident. It was too small for me, and it sounded too good. I like things that sound rubbish.
Because we've got a certain empathy. We both like old sounding. Yeah. If it sounds rubbish, there's a fair chance that me and you will go, "This is brilliant! Like, what a fantastic thing! Have you heard this? Have you heard how bad it sounds?" And everyone else will go, "Well, it's just distorted."
Yeah, it's dreadful.
And we go, "Yeah, it's fantastic." As you can tell, I mean, he's got one of my favourite pedals. Just looking around, Ibanez Tube Screamer there.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to. There's a rack mount version of that I've been trying to get hold of. Yeah, you've got to get one. It's a UE 400, and you can get that with an analog delay after it as well.
There you go. So I'll just take you through some of the bits of kit that I use the most, and what I use them for. This is a Moog. This isn't mine, but it's currently sitting pretty, and I use it quite a lot, mostly for bass lines and leads. It's really old. I think it's like 70s or something, but most of the stuff in here is. This also isn't mine, but there's a guy who shares the studio with me, and he bought it off a guy, but it's in like pristine condition. Like a guy, like an old chap now, sold it to him, and he'd had it in his loft since he bought it. So it's basically like it had never been out of the box, which is like pretty rare to find because it's really old as well.
You'd like to see lots of synths and stuff,
yeah.
But a lot of yours are old. I mean, some of them are pre-MIDI, aren't they?
Yeah. All of that's pre-MIDI.
So you've got CV.
Those two. Yeah, CV.
Explain CV. What's CV?
Control voltage.
This came before MIDI, and MIDI came in the mid-80s.
Yeah, and then in between CV and MIDI was a rolling thing called DCB, which that's not MIDI, that's DCB, which is something else. I don't even know what that stands for.
So it must take you quite a long time to get all this synced together.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's why I've got wires everywhere. This I've recently just got. It's like a 303 clone, so it does all that acidy, squelchy stuff. But more than for that, I also use it for triggering. It syncs everything together because it'll take a MIDI clock and convert it to sync, which is what the old Roland gear uses. So I've got a 606 and a 909 here, and it kind of like syncs them all together, so I can press play on there and everything starts playing at once, which is kind of how I run things when I'm making my own stuff. And I try and coax people into working like that who come here to work with me as well, because it's just a bit more inspiring than moving blocks around on a screen, and you get to turn something and it does something straight away, which is good. So I can press play on one thing and everything will start
but
dancing
that's the way.
around.
The way you work is to sort of.
Yeah.
It's basically all out of the box. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
You put it in the box at the last possible
Yeah, I just
moment.
record it when I hate it the least. I press record, and then I just keep it or throw it away. That's pretty much
That's
it.
that account for your large back catalogue.
It's a motto to live by, I find. This is another old Roland. I seem to have quite a lot of old Roland stuff. It's just amazing for pads. It's like it's digitally controlled analog preset synth, but you can edit it. Amazing, really, really cool, lush sounding stuff.
Apart from your own work, you've always done remixes and produced other people.
Yeah, I quite enjoy doing that, and mix work for other people as well, because you can sort of step back from it and look at it from a different angle, whereas if you've written it or been involved with it, you'll always treat it in a different way.
Well, you can mess it up and not feel bad about it.
Well, exactly, yeah, because as long as you're getting paid.
But if you get paid.
If you get paid.
This is one of the great problems. I mean, it's difficult to explain how. A lot of people think, you do mixes, you get lots of money for doing it, but there's not a lot for the amount of time it works.
Yeah, no, mix work, not so much. Yeah.
But you've also worked as I know you started working for others, like you've got this studio which is your own, but you also work in a lot of other studios. And I believe you just got a new job.
I've just started working for Red Bull as an engineer in their studio in London, which is an amazing studio, and there's loads of artists from all over the world.
So how did that come about? How did you?
I've done a lot of work for somebody who works a lot with them, and they needed someone, and I was recommended. And then because I've done various bits...
Because you were working abroad last year. So.
I was working in France for a chap called James Sanger, who runs Vibey Studios in Normandy.
Yeah.
But he had a ridiculous amount of kit, and I went out there and I was a programmer for him, like playing with all of his synths in that studio for a bit, which was great. Really good experience, and then I came back. Carried on working here, and then recently got the job at
So
Red Bull.
have you still got that kind of enthusiasm that you had 10 years ago that Jack has now? Jack being the guy who sub-rents from you.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, because there's so much stuff, there's so much kit that is like introduces a different way of working, and when you get bored of working in a certain way, there's always going to be something that you can swap, like, which changes your entire routine of like making music. And so I don't think that you could ever get tired
Then
on
you just
it.
find yourself though when you're working just going, well, using the same things on, and because I fall in the same trap of always using the same compressors and gates on things. And
I don't know, no, not really, because I can never remember what I've done. So I can't possibly
great
fall
thing
into
with-
that trap. Yeah.
a total lack of retentive memory.
Lack of
It's a good job we don't
consideration.
work together more often. really, 'cause
It's wouldn't work out so well. So over the other side of the studio is just more kit for making noises. This is an old S900 Akai sampler which I use all the time. It just makes everything sound a bit gritty. Like, a lot of the time I'll actually sample something like one of my own synths onto it and then replay it off that, rather than just playing it straight off the synth, because it kind of gives it a sound. And if you do that with everything that you're recording, it sticks everything together a bit. This is a Korg Poly 6, which is wicked for like paddy type sounds. Use that quite a bit. Juno 60, it's a classic. I bought it real cheap long time ago. Now they're worth loads, probably worth more than they should be worth, because they're pretty limited, but they're pretty cool as well. Everything outboard, so I have like all my effects, compression, gating, delay, I just use outboard. I don't really use any plugins. I just, not being snobby, I just don't like it. I can never get the sound that I want, and I'm jealous of people who can, because it would be so nice to be able to make music in a laptop, but I just can't do it. It's not a skill that I have, so I have to use all this stuff really.
So what's next? You've also become an A&R man as well.
Yeah.
How's that working out?
Yeah, really well actually. It was a good friend of mine, and his business partner, who is now a good friend of mine, started a record label primarily to release.
Are you going to plug the label? What are they called?
Shabby Doll Records. There you go. Living the dream. Shabby Doll Records. Primarily, they set it up primarily to release an artist called Nail, who was in Bent in the 90s, did really well. Before that, did really well as a solo artist, but he's got like a big following. And Matt Swift, who is one of the chaps behind the label, was his manager, and so they had like a decent relationship, and they set up the label to release his music, and then I got involved pretty much from the off to kind of take the reins in new artistic direction. And since then, it's only been going about a year. I think we're 14 releases in, and it's all on
What's
vinyl.
It like going to see? I mean, what you obviously go and see new artists now.
Yeah.
What's it like going to see young musicians and young bands? And as an A&R man, the person that you always wanted to turn up at your gigs, you'll know that person turning up at their gigs or receiving those demos. How do you feel? I mean, like...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I try and I get out as much as I can to see new stuff.
Do you know straight away if you hear something?
Yeah, without question. But I get sent ridiculous amount of stuff, ridiculous amount of demos. As the label's grown, the amount of people wanting to release with us and coming directly to us has grown, and every so often you get something that's fantastic and you know instantly, but a lot of it is not to my tastes or whatever. But I'm not a snob with audio, but I like it when it sounds a bit real, and I can pretty much normally tell from the first kick drum whether I'm going to like the tune or not. If it sounds sterile, I'm not into it.
What recommendation would you have to if someone's sending a demo tape to someone like yourself? What would you say?
Make it loud, a bit dirty, a bit grungy, but yeah.
Nice label.
I'm not bothered about artwork because I'm going to sort that out. If I'm going to release it, your artwork and your logo isn't going to be on it anyway. That's
telephone number, email address.
No, I'm not bothered. Just send me an email, with a link to your stuff, and I'll listen to it, and if it's good, I'll give you a shout.
So what advice have you got for the Steve Nicholls of 10 years ago when you first decided to...
So many things.
What would you redo? What would you do differently? Would you be doing this, do you think? If you knew what it was going to be.
Yeah,
have you enjoyed the last 10 years?
Yeah, I've loved it. I think, to be fair, I was never going to be working in an office. It wasn't me. And I'm sure I could have a great job with loads of money, but I absolutely love what I do, and I'm comfortable. I'm making enough to get by, comfortably. So no, I don't think I'd change anything.
What would you recommend? What would you like to say to yourself 10 years ago?
Honestly, I don't know.
Work harder. Stay up later.
Don't sell the 808. That's what I'd say. That's what I'd say. I'd beat it into me. Don't sell your 808.
Don't sell old stuff.
Yeah.
Don't think there's anything new.
There's so much stuff. The amount of stuff that I've had over the years and sold because I thought, I don't want that anymore, so I'll get that. And now I look back and there's things that you sell, because the value of equipment has shot up through the roof. There's things that I sold for 200 quid that are worth £2,000 now. Gutted.
And yet this morning you were telling me you're going to sell your 909.
I know, but I probably won't, because I know that I'll be distraught about it in 2 years' time. The same as the 808. I should never have sold that. I just wasn't using it, and whereas now I'd use it all the time.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing us around the studio.
It's fine.
And
Yeah.
good luck with all your different jobs, the many hats of Steve.
Yeah, yeah. Continue living the dream.
Thanks a lot.
That's what I'll
Take
do.
care.
Nice one. Cheers, John.